Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's really passionate to me, and that's about the project management profession, the opportunities in this profession, and how you can get a piece of the action. So, project management is leading change in organizations. Organizations have a business as usual operations mindset. Typically, they're worried about improving efficiencies. They're looking at continuing to run the same processes better, faster, etc. But occasionally something comes along that's not business as usual. It's something very different. That's called a project. Projects are what creates change in the world. So whether it's change due to a pandemic, or change due to globalization, or change due to climate change, or change driven by a new CEO with a new vision, or competitors coming out with new products and you have to respond. There's lots of things happening in this world that are driving change in our organizations, and each one of those changes happens through a project. The project manager is the role responsible for making sure that change happens. So, renovating that facility, or moving people from one building to another, or building that new piece of software, or creating a new business process, or coming up with the new product design. These are all projects, right? And the project manager is the one making sure that that change happens. It's a very exciting profession. I've been a project manager for 30 years, and I've never gotten bored. I've always had such a wide variety of projects. I've worked in IT, I've worked in construction, I've worked in business process change, R&D, all kinds of different fields. And what I've found is a great variety of projects. Projects have a defined start and an end. It's not like it's going to go on for many, many, many years and become a career or a job, right? They're finite change initiatives, and when that change initiative is over, you get to move on to another project that has some other unique characteristics, and it's always something new. So I find project management rather exciting because there's always new changes coming. To become a project manager, you need certain background, skills, experience. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it takes to become a project manager. And I'm going to talk today about the credentials that people are looking for if you want to get a job as a project manager or take on a job assignment. What kind of credentials are out there in the marketplace? There's all kinds of them. And which ones are most sought after, and how can you get them specifically, and how University of Windsor helps you get them. So we're going to talk through that as well. As I said, my name's Kevin Aguanno. I've been a PM for close to 30 years now. This slide's a little bit outdated. I've got all kinds of credentials, traditional credentials and Agile credentials. I've written over 30 books and DVDs on project management related topics. And I'm the president of the Project Management Association of Canada. I've won numerous awards for my project management work around the world. And I'm here to answer your questions. So as we go through this session, type in your questions, and then at the end, we'll have time for questions. I'll take your questions at the end. So please type them into the chat window as they come up so you don't forget them, but we will go back and address them towards the end of this presentation. So the project management profession is exciting. There's opportunity. In fact, with the pace of change that's happening in the world today, there's an organization called the Project Management Institute, or PMI. They're a standards setting body for project managers. And PMI, in some latest research, predicts that there is going to be a global shortage of project managers for at least until 2050. So it's not only is an exciting career, it's a fairly safe career. There's jobs. And in fact, if you look at the job boards, right? You go to some of those websites looking for jobs. There's tons of jobs out there for project managers. And even if you have Agile skills as well, for Agile project managers, that's sort of a hot trend of the day. You're going to find lots of opportunities out there. So it's an interesting profession, and it's one that's growing and one that's in need of more people. So I think you'll find this quite interesting. So let's talk about the credentials and stuff that you need to become a project manager. So PMI, the Project Management Institute, says you basically need 3 things to be a good project manager. You need some technical skills. So if you're going to be a construction project manager, There's PM specific stuff, scheduling, contract management, dealing with vendors, procurement, cost forecasting, dealing with risks. So there's project management specific skills, but there might also be some extra skill that you need as a construction project manager around contract law and dealing with claims and things like that that are done in that industry, not so often seen in other project management projects, but in the construction industry, those things might be a bit more common. So we'll call that the technical project management skills. Now, that's great if you have those skills. You can learn them, right? There's courses on them. University of Windsor offers courses on them. That's the technical skills. But to be a good PM, you also need some leadership skills. Now, the leadership skills expand on that. These are the soft skills, the behaviors and traits that it takes to be a good project manager. Things like creative problem solving, presentation skills, good communication skills, the ability to be persuasive and negotiate things, right? Emotional self-control. A lot of the emotional intelligence stuff that you may be hearing about falls into that category, the leadership skills, the behaviors and traits. And the third category stuff you need to know to be a good PM is some general business knowledge and understanding. So a little bit about contract law, a little bit about how to read financial statements, a little bit about your company and how it's organized and its processes, and even about your industry and its standards and norms. We call that strategic and business management. So a good PM needs skills in all three of those areas to be considered competent. And research from PMI also says that those leadership skills are by far the most important. Yes, you need the technical skills. Yes, you need those general business skills. But the thing that distinguishes the most successful project managers, the ones who get the most exciting job assignments and have the most fascinating careers, that's the people who have developed these leadership skills as well. So you need the technical skills, you need the strategic and business management skills, but you need to once you have those down, you need to really focus on growing these soft skills, these leadership skills, these behaviors and traits that are very important to signify that you're a very successful senior type of project manager. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. University of Windsor has this accelerated project management certificate program. This program is structured in a way that is going to get you to the skills that you need to work in the project management industry. It's a 9-day program. There's 9 days of training. So if we were, if there was no COVID and we were face-to-face, these would be 9 classroom days, not all in a row, spread throughout the year, but there are 9 of these in-person class dates. Now, with all the online stuff that we have to do right now because of COVID, right now, these 9 days are actually delivered over 18 half-day sessions. So each day is broken into 2 half-day sessions because nobody's going to sit in front of a computer screen all day and be expected to learn something, right? After a few hours, your brain starts to get foggy, your back hurts, you get jittery, you got to get up and walk around. You just can't sit there and focus any longer. So this program's been broken down into half-day sessions. We do really intense online learning for about an hour, right? So there's lots of interaction, lots of problem solving, case studies, group discussions, a lot going on in that hour. And at the end of the hour, research shows that you're starting to fade. Your concentration's starting to break anyway. Your mind's starting to wander. So we ask people to get up and leave the computer alone for about 10, 15 minutes. Go up, go for a walk. Go get a glass of water, go throw a stick for your dog, or go pet your dog and play with your kids for a bit, or do something different away from the computer, away from a screen. That gives your eyes a break. Also, that allows you to come back refreshed after that quick break. Don't sit there and do emails or play on your phone during that break because your eyes are still at the same focal length, and that leads to eye fatigue and eye strain. So go away, do something different for 10, 15 minutes. When you come back refreshed, we'll do another hour of intense interactive online learning, very engaging stuff. Then another 10, 15-minute break, then the final hour of online learning, and then you're kind of done for the day. If these classes are scheduled in the mornings, By now it's around lunchtime, and you're going to stop for lunch anyway. So that's it. We end the training. You can go have your lunch and go off and do something else in the afternoon, whatever you need to do for work. If it's an afternoon session, by the end of 3.5 hours, it's getting close to, dinner time. So time to wrap up the training, and then you can get on with the rest of your life, right, for the day. So the idea is we break it in these half-day, 3.5 hour sessions, either mornings or afternoons, and it's spread across the year. Each course might be a 1-day course or a 3-day course, what have you. They're broken down into small pieces. The 3-day course would be 6 half-day sessions. The 1-day course would be 2 half-day sessions, right? The total program over the year is a 9-day program. It starts with a course called Project Management Essentials. Now, Project Management Essentials gives you the foundational training in project management. It gives you the fundamentals, the basics, the stuff every project manager really needs to know at some level to even have a chance of working as a project manager. So that's a 3-day course or 6 half days. Once people have completed the Project Management Essentials course, the next thing is there's 5 individual courses, 5 1-day courses, right? Each one is 2 half days that, if it's online, that we ask people to complete as part of the program. The first of and they can be done in any order, these 5. The first one I'll talk about is Introduction to Agile Project Management. The reason we're doing the Agile component is because Agile is becoming so prominent these days. It's occurring more and more across many industries. Everybody needs to know at least a little bit about Agile. So this is a 1-day Intro to Agile Project Management course. And it applies across all kinds of industries. And we'll use examples in the course from construction and business process change and IT and all kinds of examples, so you can see how this applies across many different types of projects. Then there's a course on communications and stakeholder management. So one of the big points of project management, one of the big roles or responsibilities is to be the bridge between the technical people doing the work of the project and the client or sponsor or customer who's paying for this project, right? Whether it's an internal sponsor inside your organization or an external client, doesn't matter. Either there's somebody somewhere in the business side who's paying for this, and there's a bunch of people who are doing the work. Whether they're vendors or internal team members and subject matter experts is irrelevant. Somebody has to bridge those two. That's the role of a project manager. So communications and stakeholder management is about looking at all these various stakeholders, including external ones out in the community, right? So there may be community interest groups, lobbyists, government regulators, all kinds of people who have some influence over this project or some interest in what it's creating. Communications and stakeholder management is about understanding all the political elements around the project and figuring out how to keep these stakeholders satisfied, or even have them, get on board and help you get this project done. So it's about working with all those people, make sure the right messaging is being sent out, making sure the right people are engaged as well. The third course is about scheduling and cost management. So how do you build a plan to get this work done? How do you know if the plan is realistic? That course also talks about traditional planning and also a little bit about agile planning and how these 2 processes are different and what those plans look like. And once you have that plan, that includes both the timeline and the budget baseline as well. So we look at both the schedule component, the timeline of the project, and the money that you have available or how much money you need to create a cost plan for the project as well. So that's what this third element is. Some of that's addressed in the PM Essentials course already. This course dives deeper, goes much deeper into this. The next one is managing project risk. So managing project risk dives deeper into risk management, and we'll learn about qualitative and quantitative risk management techniques. In addition, we'll look at coming up with risk response plans and trying to determine if those risk response plans are actually financially feasible by looking at understanding the costs of the risk responses and seeing if they're how they compare to the monetary value of the risk itself, the consequences of the risk if you just left it alone and let it happen. We start to do some evaluations there to come up with realistic risk strategies. And then we also look at another course, the last course, on how to manage project-driven change. So we can manage the project, everything will be delivered on time, on budget, we'll get all the work done. But it's not just delivering the the stuff of the project, right? I've built the facility, or I've created the new policy, or I've created the new product, or I've got the new, right, the new system in place. Those are all good goals of the project. But if nobody knows about the new facility, or nobody, knows how to use the new system, it's not actually communicated outward, then it's never going to be deployed and the project doesn't meet its business objectives. So managing project-driven change, that course is all about making sure there is the right communications and training and support systems and everything created around the project to make sure that the deliverables actually get used, that the change that the project is intended to create actually happens. So that's the managing project-driven change. So that's about dealing with people's change resistance, helping them overcome that resistance, looking at all the supports that need to be in place in terms of communications in advance, training, job aids, other things that the project should probably be thinking about if they want people to actually go and create and use this new policy or process or system. So far that's 8 days. Remember, I said this is a 9-day program. There's one more day of training that's needed. And in this case, you have 3 options. So we're allowing you to slightly tailor your experience for this PM certificate program. The first option is the last day would be a course called Defining and Managing Project Scope. Now, this course is about dealing with projects that are building intangible deliverables, things that aren't easy to touch and feel. If you're in construction, for example, engineering construction, you're typically designing and building tangible things. This might not be the best course for you. But if you're in, say, software development, this might be an ideal course, because these kinds of projects that build intangible deliverables, say you're building a new policy framework or starting a new coalition, the requirements are kind of fuzzy. You're not sure exactly what you're going to do. You have to get started on some stuff while you're still figuring out the rest. Then this defining and managing project scope may give you additional skills to deal with those very specific business challenges. If you're working on another kind of project that's not focusing on building intangibles, like construction, for example, then instead on this last day, we would suggest you take something like procurement and contract management. So construction projects are often dealing with lots of vendors, and it's a very complicated process of managing all those vendor relationships and those vendor schedules and penalty clauses and all these uniquely negotiated contracts. So we're going to talk about contract management and how to get all this through the procurement system. That's another option as well. For the last day, if you have projects that are procurement related, lots of vendors working on them, then maybe this is the course that you might want to look at. And then the last one is sort of for people where neither of those really apply. You may want to look at the third option, which is project closeout best practices. This applies more generally to projects, and it's the last step of a project. How do you actually end a project? What are the handovers and the transitions of this project so it goes from being a change initiative to now business as usual? And it's helping the project transition from that special status of this is a new change to this is how we do things from now on, right? It's that changeover into operations. And that's the last course option for the last day. So the last day, you've got really 3 options to choose from. One of those 3 one-day courses, the whole thing adds up to 9 days. Now, these courses don't have to be taken all at once. In fact, as I said, they're spread throughout the year. So you can look at some of these courses in the fall, some in the spring, some in the winter. You can spread these courses out and slowly complete them as part of the certificate program. And for people who already have project management training or experience, you could just jump in right into these 5, these other courses. You don't necessarily have to take the PM Essentials. We'll have to do a prior assessment of your prior learning to see if it's equivalent or if it meets the needs. And if it's roughly equivalent, then we could actually, and there's a bit of a fee and a process for that, but we can actually get you bypassing the PM Essentials and diving right into these more advanced courses for those with already training and background in project management. At the bottom of the screen, if you haven't noticed, is a URL for finding out more about the Project Management Certificate Program at the Continuing Education Department of University of Windsor. Now, there's some other PM courses that the Continuing Education Department provides that are outside of the certificate program. One of them is called the PMP Exam Prep. So the PMP is one of these international certifications on project management. So the PMP stands for the Project Management Professional, and it is by far the dominant PM certification in North America. If you want to get a really good job as a PM and follow your PM career, you're probably going to want the PMP. There are ways of starting without a PMP, but you're going to be pushed this direction eventually anyway. So if you're looking for your PMP, my strong recommendation is that you take an exam preparation class, because the PMP is complicated. I'm going to be talking about it just a little bit, the requirements for getting your PMP. But we highly recommend you take one of these exam prep classes. And there's 3 cohorts or 3 sections available from University of Windsor. One's starting October 18th, one's like starting October 28th, and the next one starts January 10th. So there's some options for you to sign up, and registration, everything's available on the Continuing Education website. Now, this course is made up of 10 half-day sessions, and they're spread throughout many weeks, so it takes a while. But take a look at the website. There's a couple different scheduling options, whether it's evenings and weekends or afternoons or whatever. There's different options. So look at the different course sections and see if there's one of them that really meets your needs. Now, if you already have your PMP, this isn't of interest to you. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't start with an exam prep course, because there's a lot of requirements before you're even allowed to write that exam. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for those who think they're ready, University of Windsor's got you covered. Next is another exam that another course that University of Windsor provides, the Certified Agile Project Manager. So this is a 3-day course, or 6 half-day courses, specifically related to the hands-on work of planning and estimating and scheduling and controlling high change agile projects. If you recall, as part of the certificate program, there was a 1-day course called Intro to Agile. So that gives you an overview of Agile project management. This 3-day course is if you really want to get into it. This dives much deeper into the how-to of the Agile project management. The first one is, what is it? When is it? Why would you use it? That kind of stuff. This more in-depth course goes in detail. How do you do Agile project management? If you're really interested in taking this 3-day course, I would recommend you don't take the 1-day course, because all of the contents in that 1-day Intro to Agile are included as part of this 3-day Certified Agile PM. So if you're looking to take the certificate program, the 3-day will cover your Agile requirement, as well as if you just took that 1-day. Both of them cover the requirement for Agile to complete the certificate. You don't need to take both. The next sessions for this course start November 19th, and there's a winter one starting January 24th at the start of next year. So there's some options here. Now, the Certified Agile Project Manager course prepares you to write the Certified Agile PM exam from the Project Management Association of Canada. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that exam in a couple slides as well. So University of Windsor has its own certificate program, but it also prepares you for external certifications from these professional societies. So let's talk about the PMP, right? This is the one that is basically the main credential for project managers working in Canada or the US. So the requirements for writing the PMP, before you're allowed to write the exam, you need to apply. And as part of the application, you have to show that you have a 4-year university degree. Don't worry if you don't have your degree, I have another option for you. But the main requirement is a 4-year university degree, 3 years of experience leading projects, and 35 hours or a week worth of PM training. And by the way, all of the courses in the University of Windsor program prepare you with the credits you need to meet that 35 hours of PM training. That's only 5 days of training, and we've got 9 days in the program, so that by the time you've completed your certificate, you've more than exceeded the PM training requirement for your PMP. Now, what do you do if you don't have a degree? Well, it's not the end of the world. There's an alternative path. If you don't have a degree, you need at least high school, fair enough, but 5 years of experience. So you need, if you don't have the book smarts, you need more street smarts, right? So if you don't have the university degree, then 5 years of work experience, working leading projects. You still need the week of PM training. So people say, well, how do I get the years of experience as a PM if I don't have my PMP? Don't worry, I've got you covered. There's another option as well. But for the PMP, this is the minimum requirements, right? You need a high school or a university degree, and you need 3 or 5 years of PM experience, and you need a week of PM training that the Windsor certificate program covers. And then after you meet all this and they approve you, you pay your exam fee. I think it's currently, I think it's $555. And I can't remember if that's Canadian or US. You pay the $555, and then you have to write the exam. Now, the exam can be written from home, right? There's a remote proctoring process, or you can go into an exam center to write the exam. Some people prefer the exam center. It's less distracting. You don't have your kids screaming in the background. You've got privacy. It's a long exam. So that exam center sometimes might be helpful for you in a controlled environment where it's quiet and you can focus. It's a 4-hour exam, and there's 200 questions that you have to answer in those 4 hours. It is a lot of content, right? It's a long exam. You're allowed a quick break partway through. So the exam consists of a couple parts, and you can take a quick break in between. But basically, it's just a quick bio break, right? It's a 10-minute break. There, it is a 4-hour process. We highly, highly recommend you take the PMP exam prep course before trying this exam. That course prepares you for the exam. It takes you through sample exam questions, gives you exam simulators, study aids. I mean, some people spend up to 200 hours preparing to write this exam because it is a difficult exam. So your chance of succeeding without a PMP exam prep course are not that good, because you won't know what to expect and how to prepare for it. So we strongly recommend, if you're looking to get your PMP, take this course. Now, PMI has changed the PMP exam as of January of this year. So if you're reading some old websites or get access to some old study materials, they may no longer be relevant. So as of January 2021, the PMP exam now is different. Questions are based on 3 different domains. People, which is the leadership domain, right? Process, which is those technical skills we talked about, and business environment, which is that business and strategic thinking piece. So they've distributed questions across all 3 areas, and there's the percentage of questions from each area. It's still largely about the technical PM skills, but look how strong leadership is, right? All those people management skills. It's a very important part of the questions on the exam. Half of the questions on the exam, regardless of domain, whether they're leadership skills or technical skills, half of the questions on the exam are going to be Agile related. So this is a new change as of January of this year. So people who work in an industry where they don't do Agile very often, you still need to know a little bit about Agile. PMI thinks it's that important for PMs to have Agile tools in their tool set. And that's why University of Windsor has put that, at least that 1-day Intro to Agile course is a mandatory course as part of the certificate program. And they have different question types. Of course, there's multiple choice questions, but there's 2 other question types on the exam. Another one is an animation. So they will show you a video or a cartoon clip or something, right? They're going to show you an animation about a situation and then ask you to answer questions based on that situation. And the last one is where you drag and drop things. So it might be ordering these, right? Put these 5 steps in the correct order, and you drag them around to get the right order. Or it could be a cause and an effect, and connect all the causes to the right effects, right? So connecting things. These are the relationship building drag and drop type scenarios. Those are the other type of question that you might see on the exam. So a lot of this has changed, right, as of January. So be careful if you're studying with some other materials. make sure that they're updated to the current version of the exam. Now, for people who don't have their PMP and people who don't have, can't get 3 years or 5 years of project management experience because they don't have any PM credentials, a way that you might start is by getting this new certification from the Project Management Association of Canada called Certified Project Coordinator. CPC is the letters you get after your name. Now, a Certified Project Coordinator is an entry-level credential. It's designed for people who are just starting the journey into project management, how to get your first PM job. And in fact, this was created because there's lots of job postings out there looking for project coordinators. And there are no certifications or credentials that already existed for project coordinators. So the Project Management Association of Canada created something. So this is this Certified Project Coordinator exam. You start with this Certified Project Coordinator, get your entry-level positions in project management, and start accumulating your 3 or 5 years of experience to then go and write the PMP exam when you've accumulated enough experience. So it's designed for people just starting their PM career or new immigrants who are coming to Canada who may have foreign experience or credentials that Canadian employers don't recognize because they don't know how to validate that it's true, right? Sometimes the certificates are in a foreign language, or they can't call and contact, the foreign companies to see if it's, if you really did work there and have this experience, because there's language barriers, time zone barriers, and things like that. So this gives new immigrants to Canada a Canadian credential that they can use to start their PM career in Canada. Now, to get this, you need some preparation, some training to prepare for this exam. And University of Windsor's Project Management Essentials course, this is the one that's part of that certificate program, the Advanced PM Certificate, the Accelerated PM Certificate. That first mandatory course, Project Management Essentials, it's a 3-day course, prepares you to write this exam. Now, the exam isn't included in the course. It's an optional exam you would sign up for after the course. But it's an option that's available to you. And this exam, or this course, Project Management Essentials, next one through University of Windsor starts October 5th. And the next one after that starts on April 27th. So you have a couple options there of when to sign up. And at the end of that course, there's an assessment. The exam itself, if you sign up, is a 2-part exam. The first part is a knowledge test. They're going to see, do you know enough stuff about project management? Now, this exam isn't administered by Windsor. It's administered by the Project Management Association of Canada. But it's an online exam. You write it from home. It's open book. You start, part A is a 2-hour multiple choice exam, but it's only 40 questions. So you've got a lot of time. They give you time to look up the answers if you need to in your books and stuff and through your notes, because they want your best answer, not your fastest answer. So there's 40 multiple choice questions as part of the first assessment. And after you pass that exam, then you do part 2, which is a skills demonstration. So it's not just a knowledge assessment. You have to actually show that you know how to do project management. And that one, they provide you with a case study, from a real world project. They describe a situation, and then they ask you to prepare 3 project management deliverables out of a list of 5 options. So it could be things like once you've read the scenario, prepare the project schedule for this project, or its budget, or come up with a communications plan, or a risk management plan, or et cetera, right? So prepare 5 stakeholder analysis, right? So out of these 5 options, choose 3 that you think you want to do, prepare those deliverables, submit them for marking. And if you pass that skills demonstration, you are now a certified project coordinator. The cost of that certification is $200 per person. And as I said, it's not part of your tuition. It's an optional certification exam, but that Project Management Essentials course prepares you to get this certification. And this will help you get jobs, right? This is one of the things that employers are looking for, is some kind of credential to show that you can do the job. This is something that might help you get started in your PM career. Now, there's also the Certified Agile Project Manager. What's going on with that one? Remember, we said there was that Agile Project Management course, and that was that 3-day course that was offered by University of Windsor. It prepares you to write the Agile Project Management Certification exam as well. The next course for Certified Agile PM starts November 19th. So you can look for it on the University of Windsor Continuing Education site. Certified Agile PM starts November 19th. So this will be 6 half-day online sessions. And at the end of it, if you choose to, you can pay an extra fee to go write this certification exam if you really want to. This is not part of the project management, accelerated project management certificate program. But as I said, this would be counted as an alternative to that one-day intro to Agile course. If you've taken this 3-day course, you don't need to go take that one-day course later because you've more than met the requirement for Agile knowledge as part of the certificate program. This exam is 2 hours, 40 multiple choice questions, and it costs $150 per person to write the exam. So after you've completed that course at Windsor Continuing Ed, if you wish, you can register, pay an extra $150, and go attempt this Agile certification exam. Okay, so I've given you some options about getting yourself started in the project management profession. If you've already got some experience, maybe a credential, you might just want to do the PMP exam prep. If you're just starting out and you don't have any background at all, you might want to do the Accelerated Project Management Certificate program, starting with the Project Management Essentials course. And maybe after that course, you might want to go get the Certified Project Coordinator designation. And then as you go through those and more advanced courses, and you'll get all the knowledge you need to maybe go write the PMP exam once you've accumulated enough work experience as a project manager. And for those of you working in Agile environments, you may want to take that 3-day Certified Agile Project Manager course that covers all the contents you'll need to get the Certified Agile PM designation, or even alternately, you could go and become a certified Scrum Master, certified Scrum Developer. There's some other options on certification exams you could write at the end of that course as well. Even the PMI Agile Certified Practitioner, the course prepares you to write a number of exams if you wish to go afterwards and increase your credentials, right? So that'll help you gain employment. Okay, so at this point, I'm ready to take some questions. And while we're taking questions, I'm just going to throw up my contact information on the screen. If you have any questions about the content I've covered as part of this course, right? If there's something I've said you have further questions on, feel free to email me or call me. I'll always answer your questions. So I'm very happy to answer questions for you if you have any further ones. But right now, if you just want to type your questions in the chat window, we can actually go back and answer those questions. So, okay. Sue, you want to facilitate this?
Yes. So we do have some questions in the chat. The first one is a master's degree in Canada okay with the requirement in regards to the PMP certification?
The master's degree is absolutely more than meets that requirement.
Will graduate degrees lessen the 36-month project leading requirement?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Will the graduate degrees lessen the 36-month project leading requirement? So the 36-month experience.
You need 36 months of work experience in project management. Now, you could write up maybe your graduate program, your graduate work, your research that you did as part of your master's or PhD program. You can write up the research portions of that as projects, right? You did a research project for 6 months, and that would count as 6 months towards the 36 months. So if you can define that work as projects, then that would count towards the 36 months of project experience. And they just count them a month at a time. So you can get a couple months here, a few months there. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of projects in your life. You plan a move, right? To move city. So that's a little project. How many months did you spend planning and executing that move? You planned a wedding. You know, how many months were you working on planning the wedding and holding the wedding, etc. There's lots of little projects in our lives. School fundraising activities, right? Church fundraisers, school trips. There's all kinds of things that you might have been involved in terms of your work, volunteering and clubs and things like that, that may count towards that 36 months. So if you're careful how you think about it, you can often piece it together. Even if you haven't been doing a lot of formal project management work, there's still been a lot of projects in your life that would add up towards that.
There was someone asking about costs for the CPC and Agile course, so I can answer that. So for the Agile project management course, it is $12.95 Canadian plus HST, and UWindsor alumni, staff and students are qualified for a discount. So just email continue@uwindsor.ca for the discount code. And then the CPC is the project management essentials course that we're offering. And that is, check that here. That is also $12.95 plus HST with applicable discounts if you are alumni, UWindsor staff, or students. And the next one is, do we get a course completion certificate? You do get a certificate of completion. With the Accelerated Project Management program, you get the Accelerated Project Management certificate as well. How are the PM work experience hours assessed?
Okay, so you're referring to the PMI requirement for the PMP. That has all changed as of January of this year as well. So they used to do it in hours. Now they've changed it to months just to make things simpler for people. They've shortened the application as well. So what they want to do is many of them are audited. So they're going to look, humans will look it over, and they may even ask you to prove it. So they may even ask for contact info to go and contact a former employer and say, did you really work on this initiative for about 8 months, and things like that. So they'll read through it. When you describe your experience, you're going to say how many months, what was the nature of the project, and you're going to have to describe the project in a couple paragraphs, right? So you'll have to describe how this project was managed, your role on this project, and somebody's going to look this over to see, does it sound like you were just a participant in the project, or does it sound like you're actually doing some of the project management work? Now, you don't have to be the sole project manager. You could be part of a project management team. So if you're working as a junior project manager or an assistant project manager, or in some, that counts, or in some industries, a good example is the construction industry. On really large, complex projects, sometimes there's very specialized roles. There will be somebody just doing estimation, for example, feeding that information into a project manager, or quantity surveyors who are assessing how much progress has actually been done and feeding that back to a project manager. Those would count as project management related experience. Similarly, in some industries, there are schedulers. All they do is work on updating the schedule and tracking the schedule, and they don't handle all the other project management tasks. That would still count towards that 36 months of project management experience.
Great, thank you, Kevin. The next one is, can you tell me about market value of CAPM?
Market value. Okay, there is one level of credential that is below the PMP. So PMI created called a lower level of credential for people just starting out their PM journey. They call it the CAPM, or Certified Associate Project Manager. Unfortunately, the exam's almost as difficult as the PMP exam. Very similar in structure. I think there's just a fewer questions, but it's very similar in structure, and it's covering generally the same content. And in fact, they tell people to take the PMP exam prep course to help you prepare to write the CAPM exam. However, the marketplace hasn't put a lot of weight on the CAPM designation. So people want the PMP. You look in job postings, it'll say PMP required, PMP or better, right? But there's very few that say must have CAPM. It's generally not well known or not well respected. It hasn't been the huge success that PMI wanted it to be. So that's why, and it's costly and very cumbersome to apply and get this certification. That's why the Certified Project Coordinator alternative was created, to give people something a little bit more viable to get them started.
Next question, could you please explain the software skills needed for PM? Which software is more popular in Canada?
Sure. So project management is how we manage change initiatives. And you should be able to manage change initiatives without software at all, right? Software doesn't make you a project manager. Software is a tool that project managers use, many project managers. And the software that's used most commonly for project management, believe it or not, is Microsoft Excel. People manage their projects quite well just with spreadsheets and a word processor, and that's probably enough. You don't need specialized PM software. However, the larger and more complex your project gets, the more some of the specialized software is going to help you. So the one that's used most in the marketplace in Canada is Microsoft Project. So it's one of the Microsoft Office suite of products. It doesn't come when you get Office 365. It's not part of the package automatically. You got to pay extra for it, and it's expensive. But Microsoft Project is the most common, hands down, project management tool out there in Canada. Second place is used primarily in the construction industry, engineering construction, and is called Primavera. P6 is the current version. It's a product called Primavera, and it's for handling very large, very complex projects with lots of sub-projects feeding into it from multiple vendors and stuff. That would be the second place one. There's lots of other tools out there. There's even some free tools out there, open source and things like that. But these two are the primary winners overall. Now, if you're looking at Agile projects specifically, you can manage those with Microsoft Project as well, but a lot of people use a product called Jira. This is primarily for software development projects. Jira, Jira. It's used because Jira has a management layer that was added into it. It used to be a separate plugin, but now they ship it with the product automatically. And a lot of Agile software development teams use Jira to manage their projects. It's okay. It works. It's not my favorite, but a lot of people use it.
Okay, so the next one is, sorry, one second. Is the Accelerated Project Management Certificate Program with the university enough to get a job in project management, or do I need to combine with something else?
So the Accelerated Project Management Certificate Program is actually kind of new at the university. So we don't have a lot of data on job outcomes yet. However, the program is designed so that there's certifications that you can earn along the way, like the Certified Project Coordinator, like the Certified Agile PM, right? And those certifications are directly tied to employment opportunities. So I've taught courses with University of Windsor and outside of University of Windsor where people have gotten jobs specifically, for example, because they passed the Certified Agile PM exam. So they took that optional exam, got the certification, and that landed them a job they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So the Certified Project Coordinator, people have gotten jobs specifically because that they now can prove. You want something that's going to make you stand out from the other applicants. So they may get 100 people applying for a project coordinator position, and you've got you're a certified project coordinator and the others aren't. That's going to make you stand out. Somebody's more likely going to look at your application and call you in for an interview than some of the others, right? Because you've got something that is tailored to that job and it is unusual, stands out. Same thing with the Certified Agile Project Manager, right? There's something else called a Scrum Master. You could get that. The course also prepares you for that, but the Certified Agile PM is more aligned with what people are looking for from the business community in the job ads, right? That's why it was named that way, because it aligns with what they're looking for, and you're more likely to get a job with a Certified Agile PM designation than you would with just saying I'm a Certified Scrum Master. So the answer is yes, sort of. If you take the additional certifications along the way, those certifications do have directly correlated greater likelihood of jobs because of those certifications.
Are there restrictions on the work experience that counts towards getting my PMP?
Yes, it needs to be project management related work experience. You know, they don't count, hey, I was painting a house, right? It has to be project management related experience. So you have to be managing the projects around painting the house, right? You need to be able to phrase it that way, and then it would count. But other than that, there's not a lot of restrictions, because remember, a project is introducing any change in the world, and lots of stuff qualify for that. So lots of different industries, lots of different things would count in that direction. As long as you were managing that change using project management tools and techniques, that would count.
Another question is, I've taken the project management classes in Iran. I have the program certificate of 81 hours of the course. I am coming to Canada in December with no job experience. I'm going to get a job in this field. So for the start, I think I need the CPC first. How much would it cost? So I can send you the cost in the chat. And then the next question, follow-up question is, how long would it take to get an entry job in this field?
Sure. So let me try and address that. And by the way, to my Iranian friend, Chatari Khubi, I had an office in Tehran for a while, so I know a little bit of Farsi. Anyway, so the problem in Canada, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again, especially for new immigrants, the problem in Canada is that we have people coming from so many different parts of the world. It's hard for Canadians to read your certificate if it's written in Farsi. They won't even understand your certificate from Sharif University or wherever you've gotten it, in Iran. They won't be able to read the certificate to know if it's the right one or not. And also, it's hard for them to call your former employers because it's an international call. It's costly. They're speaking a different language. There's time zone issues. So it may be very hard for the employer to verify your experience as well. So it's very unfortunate, because a lot of very experienced people come to Canada from different parts of the world, but Canadian employers are a little bit lazy about verifying that experience, and they would rather just say, if you have no Canadian experience, it doesn't count. So what we ask people to do to get a job, really, it's helpful, very helpful, not impossible, but very helpful if you get a Canadian certification, right, that shows that you've got the skill and experience from somewhere in Canada or even the US, something that the Canadian employer can verify. So that's where the PMP or the CPC or something like that counts, right? The employers will see that and say, okay, somebody that we trust has verified their experience through some exam or some certification process. We know they have the skill. So how long does it take to get some of these certifications? Well, the CPC is a 3-day course, and then you can sign up for the optional exam and write the exam, the next day. So you could complete this whole process in, a day or two after the course. You're now certified project coordinator, and you can put that on your resume and in your job application. So it could happen fairly quickly. You just have to see when the upcoming courses are scheduled and if they fit into your plans. The good thing is that these courses are available online currently. So if you're planning to move to Canada, but you're still located overseas, then you could sign up for these courses through University of Windsor and get a Canadian university certificate and a Canadian certification from a Canadian professional society. That helps build your immigration application to show that you've got ties to Canada. That gives you extra points on your immigration application, and you may find that very helpful, in addition to the increased chances of employment.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left, and I just threw up just some key upcoming dates for the programs that Kevin had gone over. We do have a couple more questions, so let's see if we can see if there's anything here. How can I enhance leadership skills as a junior?
Excellent. Well, certainly working as a project manager of a subpart of a project, right? So the project manager might be running the whole initiative, but they'll give you little pieces of it to run. So, we're doing, say we're building a new community center, right? That's our project. So the main project manager might be in charge of the construction work, but they may ask you to plan the opening ceremony, right? The opening day, they're going to have a little celebration and an opening ceremony and have some entertainment and some politicians coming out and making a speech or two and some fun and prizes and games and maybe a barbecue. If you can plan that opening ceremony, you've planned a piece of that initiative, and that's now you can practice your leadership skills on that element of it, and you've got demonstration of it. Another option a lot of people forget is we have a lot of charities that are desperately looking for volunteers. And what happens is, especially during our current situation, is there's such a shortage of workers in Canada. We are across the board, we're pretty much looking for more people to fill all these job openings. Um, and but if you've got no relevant experience, maybe volunteer for a charity, because so many people are now fully employed. They don't have time to volunteer, so the charities are stuck not finding people to help them out. So maybe volunteer for a charity and offer to run a couple small projects for them. That will give you a chance to practice your leadership experience. And for our new immigrants, that also gives you an opportunity to get some more Canadian experience on your resume as well.
Great, thank you. Is volunteer experience can volunteer experience count in the 36-month PM training?
Absolutely. Towards the requirements for the PMP, absolutely. You don't have, it doesn't have to be paid experience. It just has to be experience.
There's one that I actually missed up here. What is the difference between CAPM and CPC?
The CAPM is more expensive. It takes longer to get. The exam is longer and harder. You have to maintain it every few years. You have to pay to rewrite the exam. I think it lasts 3 years. Every 3 years, you have to rewrite the exam to get recertified. And it's not very well known out there in the employment community. So employers and HR directors, people who are making hiring decisions, don't know very much about the CAPM. So for all the extra money and all the rigmarole, the CPC would be a cheaper, easier way to get started.
Can I do a CPC without accelerated project management certificate?
Yes.
Program?
What you need is the first course in the certificate program, which is the Project Management Essentials course, that 3-day course. Now, we could do a prior learning assessment if you've taken a similar project management training course, previous in your life. Then you could apply to write the certification directly. That's an option. But we recommend that the 3-day Project Management Essentials course if you have no prior project management learning.
And we're going to take one last question here. How does industrial engineering and PM, how are they related?
Okay, so industrial engineering, in many cases, if you're a process engineer or something like that, you are maybe doing a little bit of project management work, possibly. What we find, though, is that engineering schools, and I teach engineering management at a couple different universities, what we find is that some of the engineering training includes very little formal project management training. So you're just expected to know this stuff or absorb this stuff without a lot of formal training. Now, some of the other engineering programs, so I've lectured at University of Toronto, for example, in their Masters of Engineering program, we've got a specific project management program embedded in there. But not every university does, not every engineering program does. So a lot of times we find people who are process engineers or mechanical engineers, and they're working in an industrial environment, but they've had no formal PM training. They're going to benefit greatly from this Project Management Essentials program, or even completing this whole accelerated PM certificate program. They're going to find it's going to make their success rates on their project increase because they can apply those skills right away on real jobs.
Thanks, Kevin. So that was actually the last question, and we're at 2:01. So if anybody has any other questions, please just feel free to email us at continue@uwindsor.ca. And thank you, Kevin, so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining. We will be sharing the link to this video as well as a PDF of the slides tomorrow. So watch out for your emails, and we'll get that to you tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.